All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Rogue in Motion monthly webinar. This month's topic is an introduction to mindfulness and meditation for people who have Parkinson's. Today is July 15th. My name is Claire McLean. I'm a physical therapist and I specialize working with people who have Parkinson's. I have been specializing for almost 20 years. I had the opportunity to work on some research studies at University of Southern California. So I'm very passionate about research. And then I've been working with people clinically in all different settings. And my passion is really helping people implement what the research says is beneficial in the real world. Because a lot of times there is a disconnect between research and access in the real world. So research says this is beneficial, but people don't necessarily know about that research or know how to implement it or have access to do that. So that's my goal. And to allow me to do that, what I started here in Orange County, California, is a special program that is kind of a hybrid of a gym and a physical therapy clinic. So it's myself and all of our instructors are physical therapists, but we focus mostly on group exercise class because that is something that allows us to implement what the research says in terms of exercise on an ongoing basis throughout the year without being limited by insurance benefits. Insurance is wonderful, and we definitely want people to access individual therapies through their insurance, but we don't want people to be limited by insurance either. So we want people to be able to exercise with the frequency that they want. Maybe that's 5 days a week. That's hard to access through insurance. And we want people to be able to exercise all year round, not just for a few months at a time. So what we do in terms of exercise is complementary to individual therapy, but really is a bit different. We do that both. We have a gym and we exercise with people together in person. And then when COVID happened, we also started an online exercise program. So we have been running that online exercise program now for 5 years. So we get to exercise with people in a lot of different ways. All right, so that's a bit about me and the topics that we have covered so far this year. In February, we talked about lifestyle choices that make a difference. So all of the topics that we have then covered afterwards in more depth, we talked about briefly that these are the different things that you have a choice every day in how you spend your time and what you do. And we want you to know what activities the research supports that you can do that's going to help you feel better, decrease your symptoms, be healthier, decrease your stress, and help you be the healthiest version of yourself while living with Parkinson's. So we talked about an introduction to all those lifestyle choices, and we've basically made a checklist that you can print for each week that's a reminder of what those things are. And it doesn't mean that you have to do every single thing every single day, but you might know there are certain things that really help you. And so maybe those are things that you try to do each day. Maybe you try to do at least one of the things each week. So it can be used in many different ways. I will show that. In March, we talked about how to track symptoms and function and set goals. So there are different ways that you can measure your symptoms yourself with a self-assessment, with a physical therapist, with a neurologist. And all of these presentations are recorded and available on YouTube, just so you know. In April, we focused on exercise as medicine, really focusing on aerobic exercise. In May, we focused on exercise as medicine, more skill-based focus. In June, we talked about nutrition, how it can help with brain health, gut health, and more. And then this month, we are covering meditation and mindfulness. So far, there are already multiple things that you can do each day to help yourself feel better and be healthier. The other thing I'd like to mention is when I'm working with people with Parkinson's, a lot of times they say, oh my gosh, this is a lot of stuff. It is a full-time job to have Parkinson's and take care of myself. And I agree, it's a huge commitment to make these lifestyle choices. But the thing is, all of these things are important for all of us, even when you don't have Parkinson's. So it's just that in our society, especially here in the US, we are all about fast and easy and cheap and honestly inactivity, doing things, the simplest, easiest way possible, not necessarily putting in a lot of work or moving our bodies. Depending on where you live, some places it's walkable, but many places where we live, it's drivable. We're driving everywhere that we're going, and we're not naturally that active in our lives. And so when you start to implement these lifestyle things, it feels like you're a salmon swimming upstream. You are doing things different than anyone else because you're spending time exercising each day. You are making your food from scratch. You are spending time doing this. And that's different than the average person, but it's what we all should be doing. And all of these wellness things that I'm talking about here are all things that I am implementing within my own life, because it's what the research shows is healthy for us, not just when you have Parkinson's, but it also helps reduce risk of things like having a heart attack or stroke, cancer, diabetes. So these things are good for us in many, many ways. And even if you didn't have Parkinson's, it would be ideal if you did pretty much all these activities that I'm going to be talking about. This is our brain health daily checklist. So it's for the whole week. Up here, we've got Monday through Friday, brain health activities. Each one is worth 1 point. So whether you did some aerobic exercise, skilled exercise, how much sleep you got, how well hydrated you are, servings of fruits and veggies. If you did any brain training, Brain HQ is research-based brain training, did a guided meditation, connected with family or friends, relaxed, rested, played, or laughed, shared something I'm grateful for. And so you get a point for each of those things that you do each day. So like I said, some people might try to get a bunch of points each day, or some people might just try to say, in a given week, I'm going to try to have done each of these things. So there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this and use it in a way that helps you the most. So what is mindfulness? Some of you may already have a practice, but a lot of people are not familiar with mindfulness or meditation, and this might really be an introduction for you. So mindfulness is a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings and thoughts and bodily sensations, used as a therapeutic technique. So one thing about the way our lives are these days is there is a lot of multitasking. There's a lot of thinking or worrying about the future, thinking or worrying about the past, distractions, being on our phone, constantly receiving emails and texts, and having people being able to reach us all the time. And that really spreads our attention and makes it difficult to be mindful and live in the moment. As I'm sitting here, I am giving a presentation, I'm looking at this slide. I can notice, do I smell anything? I can feel my bottom sitting on the chair, my feet resting on a footrest here as I sit. So really living in the moment and being aware of your bodily sensations is something that is very calming and helpful for the nervous system. We want to live in the moment. Anytime our attention, obviously we have to make plans for the future sometimes. And if we need to make plans, do that. But we don't need to be worrying about or ruminating about things that are going to happen in the future that we may or may not have control over, that may or may not happen. We don't need to spend a lot of time doing that. But that's what our mind does, is it produces thoughts all the time. And those thoughts can go in all different directions. And when you're living with a diagnosis like Parkinson's, there's a substantial change to your health, and it is normal to wonder and sort of worry about the future, but it doesn't help to let those thoughts go uncontrolled. What's going to happen? Are my symptoms going to get worse? How quickly? Oh, I feel worse today. Does that mean my Parkinson's is worse? Those types of thoughts are not really helpful. If you have specific questions, you should organize your thoughts and ask them to your neurologist. But otherwise, when your mind goes off and worries about those things, it's better to bring your attention back to the moment and say, how do I feel now? How am I doing now? What opportunities do I have to improve my health now and in the future? And that's what we want to focus our attention on. So types of mindfulness: mindful meditation. So you can be sitting or lying down or moving, and you're really present in the moment with that meditation. Mindful movement, things like power moves, Tai Chi, yoga, really are often asking you to move in a certain way and feel certain things and draw your attention. And you're maybe moving in new and different ways. So it kind of requires you to pay attention in a way that is different than, if you go for a walk, you might be able to multitask and you don't really have to think about what you're doing. Walking can be very mindful, though. You can think about standing tall and letting your arms swing and taking big steps. So anything can be mindful, and a lot of things can not be mindful. Mindful eating. So that's also something. A lot of people eat in front of the TV, just kind of eat our food quickly, don't really think about what we're eating and how it tastes and what the different textures are and what does it look like. There's a lot of ways that you can bring mindfulness into your eating, and that's much healthier for us, taking our time, eating a bit slower, chewing more, smelling our food more. All of those things actually aid in digestion, which that is something that can be impacted in Parkinson's. So having really healthy eating habits, not eating distracted. One time I was eating grapes while I was watching TV and I choked on a grape and it was actually scary. So you really want to be mindful and chew your food well. The better you chew your food, the easier it's going to be to digest and for you to absorb those nutrients. So all of this, isn't just about it isn't just about being mindful. It actually matters for our health and for our biology and our physiology. Gratitude practice is a great one to do. Humans, we tend to have a negative bias. When something negative happens, that's what we pay attention to. I think they say it takes like 10 positive things to outweigh one negative thing in terms of what our brain's attention is on. And so spending some time each day thinking about what you are grateful for can help turn that around so that you can start to have more of a positive focus in your thoughts. Breath awareness is a great one to do, and attention to the present moment. So again, just any time in your life, like stop, check into the present moment. What are you doing? How are you feeling? What do you smell? What sensations do you feel in your body? Really getting yourself grounded can help with anxiety. There's just so many things it can help with. So mindfulness can be really wonderful, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can just be a pause and a check-in. How do I feel? What's going on right now? So then what is meditation? Meditation is a practice where an individual trains the mind to improve attention, intention, and attitude. Types of meditation, guided meditation. So you can listen to a meditation, and that might be helping you relax. It might be helping you go to sleep. I have a sleep one that I love that I listen to pretty often as I'm going to sleep. There are all sorts of different topics. Some are specifically health related. Some are about things like parenting or about, world topics. And sometimes what's happening in the world in terms of, flooding and different disasters can be very upsetting. And you want to acknowledge how you feel about those situations. You can't pretend it's not happening, but you also can think about, how do I need to take care of myself so that I can be present and there for others and help them? Focused meditation, like breathing, a sound or an image. Loving kindness meditation is a specific type of meditation. Mantra is, having a mantra, something like, I am strong, I am powerful, I am capable. You find words that maybe aren't always how you feel. Maybe sometimes you feel like things are out of your control. So you want to have a mantra, I am control, I am in control. And maybe you get specific. I am in control of what time I wake up in the morning. I am in control of what time I go to bed at night. I am in control of how much news or TV I consume. I am in control of how I spend my time. So it's saying things, and whether you think it or say it or write it down, but those kinds of mantras, the more that you focus on that, the more it can become true. So that's when they say, setting an intention. That is setting an intention for how you want to be, where, what you want to achieve. Body scan meditation is a really great one that is very helpful if you have pain anywhere. And just checking in with your body. And that's one thing that can happen with Parkinson's too, is sometimes you just kind of can feel disconnected from your body. Lack of dopamine in the brain kind of interrupts those signals from your brain to your body. So there is a physiologic basis for how you feel. But when you do something like a body scan meditation, where you're thinking and feeling and maybe even moving those body parts, you can improve that connection between your brain and your body. Visualization can also be really powerful. If there is something that a skill that you want to achieve, like this is something that professional athletes do, is not only do they practice, like a basketball player practices shooting hoops, they also visualize themselves, shooting those hoops from different locations, in different environments, under different conditions. So they visualize themselves. And research shows that visualization is very powerful in terms of activating those circuits in our brain too. So physically moving our body, of course, is very good to do, but it's not the only way to improve on things. And certain symptoms like freezing of gait, which is when it's difficult to lift your foot and take a step, that is a symptom that they have done research where they both have someone who experiences freezing. They have them watch someone moving who is not freezing, so they get to see that fluid movement without freezing, interrupting the movement. And they also have them visualize themselves moving in that way. And research has shown that that can decrease freezing that people experience. So this can be, kind of more general or specific to Parkinson's and Parkinson's symptoms. So benefits of mindfulness and meditation. Research on the processes and effects of meditation is a growing subfield of neurological research. Activation of the parasympathetic nervous system and stress relief are thought to play a role in meditation's positive effects on chronic health conditions. Modern scientific techniques and instruments such as fMRI, functional MRI, and EEG, looking at brain activity patterns, have been used to see what happens in the body of people when they meditate and how their bodies and brain change after meditating regularly. So there are true physiologic changes that happen with these types of practice. And why does this matter for people with Parkinson's? So one research study that showed that cognitive stress reduces the effect of levodopa on Parkinson's resting tremor. So cognitive stress made medication not work as well. So when we can decrease our stress levels through something like meditation or mindfulness, that can help us experience less symptoms. And that might partially because of medication working better. And then also might just be because stress is something that tends to exacerbate people's symptoms. So when you can minimize stress, your symptoms could be minimized as well. This article was really interesting, published in 2017. Can stress accelerate progression of Parkinson's disease? In a study of more than 4,000 patients, a stress proxy score predicted mortality and was associated with worsening mobility. The findings suggest that stress reduction may be an effective intervention in Parkinson's disease, said this neurologist from Oregon Health Science University in Portland. Potentially stress reduction is something we could think about to slow Parkinson's disease progression. Our goal is not only to treat symptoms of Parkinson's disease, but to slow progression of the disease. So that to me is pretty exciting when it is something that you can choose to do, that is accessible, that is possible. It doesn't have to take a lot of time in your day. There are free resources to support you. That's something you could do that may actually have an effect on slowing the progression of Parkinson's over time. I think that's pretty exciting. A potential case of Parkinson's, of remission of Parkinson's. So this is a case report. This is talking about one person only. This is a man who is 78 years old, 16 years ago, was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease by a neurologist. He initially presented with left-hand tremor, stooped posture, shuffling gait, and falls. Since 2012, his symptoms and signs have almost completely remitted, and he has been off all pharmacotherapy, so pharmacological therapy, for that time. The accuracy of the initial PD diagnosis is supported, though, because he had appropriate clinical presentation, a history of positive response to Cinemet, and an abnormal DAT scan. So basically, his symptoms have almost gone away and he is not taking medication. And it's not just because he didn't have Parkinson's in the first place, but it's because of possibly multiple factors. Who knows what else he's doing? But in this paper, the authors propose that the individual's long history of meditation practice may have been one contributing factor of this improvement, as meditation has been shown to release dopamine in the striatum. So again, one person, but very exciting to think about how much of a difference this could make in your life. Now we're looking at some research that is in groups of people. So this research study looked at mindfulness-based intervention in people with Parkinson's disease and showed that it led to structural brain changes on MRI. This was a randomized controlled longitudinal study. So the results of this study was increased gray matter density. So there are different parts of our brain. There's different types of matter and neurons in our brain. Density is important because density means more neurons. More neurons in general is a good thing. So they showed increased gray matter density found in the group who completed the mindfulness-based intervention compared to the control group in the region of interest, which was in the amygdala and the hippocampus, which are areas related to emotions and memory. When it comes to Parkinson's, it's stressful, and just the knowledge of having a diagnosis like that can obviously affect your emotional state. And then if your amygdala doesn't have as many neurons and can't function as well, that also can cause you to feel less in control of your emotions. So that may present as depression, that may present as anxiety, that may present as apathy. I know quite a few people that really experience a lot of anxiety, and that is an emotional response that is basically out of control. And so, meditation and mindfulness is one of the things that you can do to regain control over your emotional state. And then, memory, I mean, I think we all want to have the best memory we possibly can, right? So, more neurons in the hippocampus is going to help us have better memory. Another study, so that one was looking at the structural changes. This study was looking at basically symptom report. So, pilot study of a mindfulness-based group intervention for individuals with Parkinson's and their caregivers. Pilot study assessing the feasibility and impact of an 8-week mindfulness-based group intervention on cognitive and emotional functioning for people with Parkinson's and their partners. Mindfulness levels. So there are questionnaires where you can measure your mindfulness levels and see, do you tend to be more mindful? Do you tend to be less mindful? And then if you go through an intervention, like an 8-week program, or if you start meditating or, practicing mindfulness on a regular basis, you could measure and check in on that a month later, 3 months later, some period of time, and see, have you improved in your mindfulness? So their mindfulness levels in this study increased for all participants from pre to immediate post. A significant improvement was seen for self-reported symptoms of depression and self-reported language function. So language function is another thing that really matters and is related to our cognition, and we want to be able to communicate well with people. Participants with Parkinson's uniquely showed significant improvement on mental flexibility and complex attention tasks and reported significantly fewer emotional and cognitive symptoms associated with Parkinson's. So mental flexibility, yes, we all want that. Complex attention tasks, we want to have that skill, and we want to have less emotional and cognitive symptoms. So multiple studies showing that meditation helps in multiple different ways. So this, in this study, they explained kind of what those mindfulness training sessions looked like. So it was an 8-week session where they had one meeting each week, but then there's going to be homework. The goal is to work on some things each day at home on your own, but they met once a week. And then at the end, they had a half-day silent retreat. I have participated in this MBSR program myself twice. It's a very interesting experience for someone who's used to talking a lot. To do a half-day silent retreat is quite an experience, and I would highly recommend it. So week 1, the lesson is, what is mindfulness? How does it relate to Parkinson's and caregiving, individual and group goals? There's a raise and exercise. So that's the mindful eating, a body scan, mindfulness of breathing. Week 2 is mindfulness of eating, cultivation of non-judgment, discussion of challenges using formal and informal practices, mindful eating exercise, reviewing body scan. Week 3, mindfulness of bodily movement and sensation, noticing pleasant events, chair yoga, pleasant events calendar for homework. Week 4, noticing unpleasant events, group discussion of outside practices, seated meditation, unpleasant events calendar for homework. Week 5, informal mindfulness practice in transitions of daily activities, discussion of mindful communication. Practice is seated meditation, mindful communication exercises for homework. Week 6, stress reaction cycle and responding versus reacting to stress. There's a difference. Mindful walking was the practice. Week 7, reflection on practices and integration into daily living and impact on Parkinson's and caregiving. The practice was loving kindness meditation. Week 8, setting intentions for continued practice, discussion of changes in living. The practice was a mindful letter writing exercise to reflect on class experience. And then the half-day silent retreat, consolidation of practices and benefits of extending duration of formal practices. Practice, body scan, chair yoga, seated meditation, mindful eating, mindful walking. So this is what was covered. And so this MBSR program is something that was developed by John Kabat-Zinn. Trying to think of exactly what his background is. I believe he'd be considered a neuroscientist in terms of his research. He developed this program for people who have chronic pain And it is now available all over the world. So if you look up mindfulness-based stress reduction class, they wouldn't all necessarily be Parkinson specific, but that is okay. It doesn't have to be specific to Parkinson's. There are programs available online. There are programs available in most communities at a yoga. If there's like a yoga, what's it called? Studio, at a university, at a hospital. Brian Grant Foundation, Brian Grant is a gentleman who is living with Parkinson's, and he has a foundation that is to help other people live better with Parkinson's. They do what I believe is an online program that is kind of donation based. So there's a lot of opportunities for a structured program like this, if that is something that would be helpful for you. I think a lot of us have good intentions and we know about things. We know we should be exercising. We know we should be drinking water. We should be eating fruits and vegetables. And there is a difference between knowing about it and putting it into practice. And so sometimes when you sign up for a program and commit to it on a weekly basis for a period of time, it's going to help you actually do it. Then if you just say, yeah, I'm going to meditate. And then you're like, well, tomorrow. And then a week later you haven't. And then a month later you haven't. So I think that structure can be really helpful for a lot of people in actually implementing these practices. Meditation and mindfulness can help both motor and non-motor symptoms. So it can help decrease things like rigidity. Because again, we've talked about how stress can exacerbate and increase symptoms. So when you can manage your stress better, you can alleviate those symptoms. Changes in cognition, mood, anxiety, depression, apathy, pain, sleep, and overall health. Structured MBSR programs have been researched in many different populations, and some of that research I shared specific for people with Parkinson's. But when it comes to some of these things like cognition, anxiety, pain, sleep, I would really argue that, yes, the more relevant research there is for people living with Parkinson's, the better. But I also think that research, even of people who don't have Parkinson's, is relevant for these specific things. So there's a lot of research out there that supports this type of practice. This study looked at training mindfulness in people who had Parkinson's and the neurobehavioral effects. So the objective was to investigate possible neurobehavioral changes secondary to a mindfulness-based intervention, MBI, training for individuals living with Parkinson's disease. The background: in the context of complementary medicine, MBIs are increasingly being used for stress reduction and in patient populations coping with chronic illness. The use of alternative and complementary medicine may be higher in patients with chronic conditions such as Parkinson's. However, behavioral effects of mindfulness training in Parkinson's have not yet been reported in the literature, and this points to an unmet need that warrants further examination. So their methods: they had a total of 27 out of 30 people with Parkinson's complete a randomized controlled longitudinal trial. Questionnaires and the UPDRS were obtained at baseline and 8-week follow-up. Results: they saw significant changes after the mindfulness-based intervention were found, including a 5.5 point decrease of the UPDRS motor score, an increase in 0.79 points on the PDQ-39, that is a quality of life questionnaire, and a 3.15 point increase on the 5-facet mindfulness questionnaire observed. Facet. So conclusions: to the best of our knowledge, this is the first quantitative analysis of neurobehavioral effects. So significant improvement on the UPDRS and the mindfulness questionnaire. The change in the PDQ-39 is not necessarily a significant change, but whenever we see a slight improvement, if that's something that could potentially continue over time with continued practice, it could add up to more. And anytime we see an improvement instead of a decline, we are happy to see that. This is a study that was not specific for people with Parkinson's. They showed that meditation makes you stronger against pain. So a research group from the University of Montreal exposed 13 Zen masters and 13 comparable non-practitioners to equal degrees of painful heat while measuring their brain activity in functional MRIs scanner. What they discovered is that the Zen meditation practitioners reported less pain. Actually, they reported less pain than their neurological output from the fMRI indicated. So even though their brain may be receiving the same amount of pain input, in their mind, there's actually less pain. And this is something, pain is a whole topic for another day that we don't have time to totally get into. But our experience of pain is not just a one-to-one correlation with what is happening to our body physiologically. There are a lot of examples of extreme injuries where we experience minimal pain, And the opposite, minimal injuries where we experience a high degree of pain. Like if you think about eating something really cold, like ice cream or something in the summer, and sometimes it hits the back of your throat and it is an extreme pain. It feels like you're being stabbed in the throat. Like you're being injured by that ice cream. It's just cold. But that sensation can be interpreted by our brain as something different than what is actually happening. So when it comes to pain, there is something that is happening to our tissues, and then there is how our brain is interpreting that information, and those do not always correlate. So the good news is that if you are someone who experiences pain, certainly we want your tissues to be as healthy as possible. Some intervention may be required, but also spending some time in mindfulness or meditation is something that could help you reduce the pain level that you experience so that it is not as bothersome in your life. Mindfulness meditation and improvement in sleep quality and daytime impairment among older adults with sleep disturbances. So this again is one that is not specific for people with Parkinson's, but sleep is something that is commonly affected for people with Parkinson's, both not sleeping well at night or having daytime sleepiness. And the research has showed, that's a different one. Research showed that meditation mindfulness did help people have improved quality sleep at night. Just being able to kind of switch your nervous system all day, we're kind of go, go, go. And to be able to rest and digest, we need to transition our nervous system out of the sympathetic into more parasympathetic mode. So a meditation in the evening before you go to bed is a really good way to help your nervous system switch to allow you to sleep better. And also, if you wake up with racing thoughts or having a hard time sleeping, for one, you want to talk to your doctor about that because there might need to be adjustments to your medication to help with that. But listening to a meditation at night when you wake up is something that can kind of take your mind away from the things that it's ruminating on or thinking about, to help your system be able to calm, to be able to go back to sleep. So using it at bedtime and also overnight is times that you can use meditations to help you sleep. Mindfulness or meditation therapy for Parkinson's, a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials. So just a few years ago, they looked at all the articles that they found. And when they kind of pared it down to, a certain level of quality of studies, they found 9 articles involving 8 trials that were included with a total of 337 patients. Their meta-analysis revealed that mindfulness and meditation therapy significantly improved UPDRS motor score. So that's the part 3. So movement symptoms it helped with. That's pretty cool. And cognitive function, huge. There are not a lot of interventions that help with cognition. Medication, nutrition certainly can help when you really eat healthy for your brain. Exercise can help, but this is another intervention that can help with cognition that is huge. However, in these studies, no significant differences were discovered between mindfulness therapies and controlling gait velocity. To me, that kind of makes sense. I think if you want to get faster at walking, you got to walk. You got to train the walking. The PDQ 39, that's that quality of life measure, activities of daily living, depression, pain, or sleep disturbance. So it would be interesting to look at these specific studies where they didn't see a difference and see really what was the focus. The other take home for me looking at this is that I don't think that there is any one intervention that is going to address everything. We have our brain health checklist because I think that when you implement multiple different healthy behaviors, they are all going to add together to help you do better. So I think that if someone just drinks more water or just exercises or just focuses on their sleep, I think they're missing on the amount of potential improvement they could experience. I think that implementing as many of the healthy behaviors as you can, as consistently as you can, is what is going to help you the most. And sometimes you have to see, with whether it's sleep or pain, is there an underlying physiologic or medical thing that needs to be addressed? So optimizing medication is always one of the first things that needs to be done. Parkinson's medications, you need to be on the right ones, the right dose, on the right timing. You need to have a good exercise program. You need to be focusing on sleep. So you need to be doing all different things at the same time to really address and experience the most improvement. So that's my take home from where they didn't see improvements, is that I don't think that mindfulness or meditation should really be implemented as an intervention on its own. I think it should be in addition to other things. So it looks like I was on the same thought process when I put this together. So I wanted to review that I would never recommend just doing the guided meditation. We want to do some aerobic exercise and or some skilled exercise. We want to focus on our sleep. We want to make sure that we're hydrated, eating healthy foods that provide antioxidants and fiber to make us the healthiest that we can be. Brain training to help our cognition be as good as possible. Guided meditation is one of the things. Connect with family and friends, rested, played, laughed, relaxed. And that doesn't mean like resting in front of the TV. That's not what we're talking about here. And then shared something I'm grateful for. So implementing as many of these things together as possible is how you're going to get the most benefit from any of them. So resources, there are some great books if you like to read. Mindfulness Revolution, wherever you go, there you are. This Jon Kabat-Zinn is the founder of the mindfulness-based stress reduction program. Full Catastrophe Living, using the wisdom of your body and mind to face stress, pain, and illness. Heal Thyself, lessons on meditation and mindfulness. So there's a lot of great books out there that you can read if you like to. In terms of supporting you, so like I mentioned, I think a structured program like the MBSR program is a really good idea to help you get started and to learn about it. If you are more interested on DIY, doing it yourself, in that case, then I recommend utilizing an app. My favorite app, there's a whole bunch of apps out there. So if you already have an app that you know and like and use, stick with it. If you don't, my favorite app is called Insight Timer. So this is, if you look it up on kind of the app store for your device, Insight Timer for meditating and sleeping, you can download that app. They have a free version. You don't have to pay for it. They also have a paid version if you want to support the work that they're doing. And then if you go in, there are all different topics. Is this morning and you're wanting to get up and going? Do you want to take a course, through the app and on your own time and pace? Do you want to listen to music? Are you a beginner? Do you have certain challenges you're working on? Do you want to focus on your breath or do specific meditations? So you can look up by topic. You can pick the length of a guided meditation. There are ones that are short as like 2 or 3 minutes, up to ones that are an hour long. My sweet spot is probably like 10 to 20 minutes. When I'm going to bed, I pick one that's a little bit longer so that usually I fall asleep before it's done. So this Bedtime Body Scan for Deep Sleep by Fleur Chambers is one of my favorites. It's 28 minutes long. I start listening to that. I fall asleep and I wake up in the morning and it's great. So there's a gratitude one. There's breathing techniques, a breathing break, unwind. If there are certain ones that you like, you can bookmark those and save them. So it's easy to go back to them. Fleur Chambers herself is one of my favorite people. I think her voice is really nice sounding. She has nice soft music playing and just what she says I really enjoy. So you can find the ones that you like and save those for yourself. So how we incorporate meditation and mindfulness into the Rogue membership. It's on our weekly brain health checklist. We do mindful movement in our exercise classes. We do breath work and guided meditations in our classes at times. We've done that as an exercise of the month and we incorporate that at times. I have a list of my favorite guided meditations that are available as links that I send out in a daily email to our members. And we discuss how to implement this, and we provide guidance for people to help them implement this into their lives. So if you're interested, and I know on this call right now, we have some of our current members already, but if there's anyone listening or watching this who is not a member with us at Rogue, either in person or online, if you want more guidance and support in implementing these lifestyle choices and factors into your life and having ongoing access to experts, you can join us. You can join us in person at Rogue and come to our gym. And if you want to do that, the best thing to do is give us a call at 714-276-3992. If you do not live locally, we're in Orange County, California, between LA and San Diego. So if you are not local, if you live elsewhere and you want to join us online, the website for our online membership is www.rogueinmotion.com. And for the online membership, if you use the code free month after watching this webinar, you can have a month for free of trying the membership to make sure it's a good fit for you. So you would have access to our live classes on Zoom, our recorded classes in the video library. We have meetings like this, discussions. We bring research up. We help people implement it. We normally have a 7-day free trial, but if you use that code, you would get an additional free month online for free. So you can check that out if you're interested. Let me know if you have any questions at all. For anyone watching a recording, feel free to give us a call with those questions. Again, our number is 714-276-3992, or you can email me at claire@roguept.com. I will stop the recording, and now I'm going to open up to any of you who have joined live with me to let me know if you have any questions at all.